Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. I didn't do a video yesterday because I was a little tied up, but I did do some data on the miners as far as short interest over the last month. How has that increased or decreased for the miners? So we'll look at that. We'll also take a look at the miners, how they have performed since they kind of bottomed out at the end of 2022 in December, beginning of January of 2023, and where they are now as far as percentage gains compared to Bitcoin. So we'll look at all the top miners there. Like I said, we'll also take a look at the short interest, and there's really no news as far as the miners are concerned. The miners, however, have been doing really well the last 2 days. After the halving event, we've seen obviously a huge increase in the Bitcoin transaction fees. We'll take a look at that a little bit as well. But they've been doing really well, which is nice to see. A lot of them have been in the green and doing like 10% or even higher than that, 20% gains in the last 2 days. We'll look at that as well, and I think that's going to be it. So let's get into it here, but as always, you guys know the drill here. Oh, also, one other thing. We are now 1,432 days away from the next halving event. We got a long ways to go. Okay, but as always, you guys know the drill here. I didn't want that one. I wanted this one. Sorry about that. So, as always, not financial advice for entertainment only. Do your own research. I'm investing in following coins and companies for full disclosure. If you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. Corrections will be posted to Discord, YouTube, and Twitter. And I'm not paid by any of the public Bitcoin mining companies that I cover here, even the ones that I'm invested in. Okay, so full disclosure there. So let's take a look at Bitcoin here really quick. What's going on there? And we can see here that Bitcoin, I mean, it was up quite nicely yesterday. Had a nice green day. It was up approximately 2.93%. Obviously, you guys know that. You guys have been tracking it. Bitcoin today was down a little bit here, 0.66, but the miners actually had a really good day both yesterday and today. The miners were more in the green yesterday than they are today. But now Bitcoin's kind of going back up a little bit here. It's at 66,000. Looks like we may have some resistance here right around, I mean, it looks like right around, where is that? Right around there, 67,000 or so might be our resistance, right? So if we can get past that, I think it's smooth sailing going up to possibly the new all-time high going forward, but we'll see, right? Nobody has a crystal ball. We can't really say what's going to happen in the next couple of days. We'll just have to see and wait on that one. But the miners today, really good day for a lot of the miners. We saw Marathon up 10%. We saw, who else was up 10% or more? Nobody else was up 10% or more. Others were kind of in the 8, 7%, 6%. We had some that were down. Estig, Mawson was down. DigiHost, Argo, some of this smaller miners obviously were down today. But overall, it was a good day in the miners here. Okay. Now, if we look at the miners where they bottomed out at December 2022 and into January of 2023, if we look at that chart, I mean, this is outstanding how the miners have done since then. So if you were lucky enough to buy basically a year and 4 months ago, right at that point at the bottom, you're doing pretty well depending on the miners that you got into. So if we look at the chart here, we got all the miners that I cover here right now, and the large miners, except for one. Core is missing out of this because Core was in bankruptcy. They had a different ticker symbol at that point, so they're not in here. It's kind of hard to figure them out because they just came out of bankruptcy here in the last couple of months, and they changed back to the Core Z ticker symbol as well. But other than that, if we look at the miners here, we can see where Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is up 298% here. You can see that right there. And then you got these miners that have underperformed Bitcoin in the last, basically, what is that now, 16 months roughly, right? From that time frame, you got Wolf up 279%, Riot 251%, Bit Digital up 242%, Hot 8 only up 135%, Hive up 99%, and BitDeer has been underperforming here since then. They're only up 36%. Or sorry, they're down 36% actually. So they're in the negative territory from where they were back then. Going to the ones that have actually outperformed Bitcoin, you got Iron here, 368%, right? Bitfarms, 394, Marathon, 471%, Cypher is up 651% since then, and CleanSpark, the winner here right now at 931% up for the last 16 months, basically. So if you bought in anytime between then and now, if you dollar cost average in or something like that, you're doing pretty well, right? And that's great to see. But if you bought in some of the peaks here where we were prior on some of these miners, you might be actually in the red still. But give it time. I think they will, going into this year and possibly early next year as well, will rebound quite nicely here, especially if Bitcoin goes up in value. But that is yet to be seen here. But based on historical events, I think it will happen. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at here, how the miners have done over the last 16 months or so, from the bottom to the top, and it's been a fun ride. It's definitely been fun. hasn't been easy. It's been challenging. We've seen obviously a lot of ups and downs. The ups are always fun. The downslides are never fun. You're seeing your hard-earned cash and everything else kind of float away into the ether. But as long as you didn't sell or anything like that and you held on to it and you dollar cost average in, I think you're probably going to be doing pretty well right now. Okay, so that's that chart there. And then let's take a look at the Bitcoin transaction fees is what I want to take a look at as well. So Bitcoin transaction fees, as we talked about on when we talked about it on Sunday's video, right? We said that those are actually still relatively high compared to where they were pre-halving event, which is true. Right now, the latest ones that we see here, let me refresh this so we can get the most recent one on this one. Okay, so the latest one is 20 minutes ago. This was from Ant Pool Mind. Total fees, 2.572. So subsidy plus fees is 5.697, right? Much higher than we were expecting things to be at. And I don't know how much longer this is going to continue, but right now we're seeing pretty good, what's it been, 48 hours or something like that, where the transaction fees have stayed relatively elevated, right? So that's a short time frame. We need a much longer time frame to see how that all plays out going forward. But if the fees maintain at this point, I mean, it's basically like the halving has been canceled. The miners are still going to be making a lot of cash and revenue on this. Right, if you look at the prior block at that point was 2.548, subsidy and fees 5.673. Going into the prior one of that, you got now subsidy and fees at 6.11. Going back even further, 5.698. So they're staying pretty high here. As I'm looking at this stuff here, one of the things I'm looking to do is possibly start my own little Bitcoin core server, get all the data on the blockchain, put it into a database. That way I can track all of this stuff a lot easier going forward, because the fees are having such a huge impact on the miners' revenue that's going to make it obviously a little bit more challenging. But if I have the data, I can definitely pull the data out when I need to. And I can see what those percentages are on the fees here going forward, which will make my thing a little bit easier. But then also might, I'm not saying this kind of brainstorming idea here, might open up some things that we can do maybe on the website side of things as well. Maybe I'll do a website where we do all these things for the miners as well. Potentially. I don't have that much time, so it's all time-based, and we'll see if I can pull all that stuff together here. Okay, but I mean, you're seeing here 6.3 here just 2 hours ago, 6.4, 5.9 block reward, 6.17, 6.16, 6.4, right? 6.67. So I mean, we're averaging about 6 BTC or so over the last 24 hours, if you look at it that way, on the blockchain. Maybe a little bit higher than that even. So this is all good news, obviously, for the miners, which is great news. And then I expect the miners, if this continues to do really well, but obviously the side effect of this is that we won't really see any drops in the network hash rate or anything like that, because miners are going to be profitable even with the older machines that they have, the 80, 90 terahash miners, or even maybe even 70 terahash miners. Those might be coming online because they're still profitable. Bitcoin, with the price that's at right now, and possibly going up much higher, that's going to be, very profitable for a lot of these guys here going forward. But that's about it. Okay, so let's take a look at the short interest on the miners here. It's going to be a pretty short video because there's not much news going on right now in the space. I think everybody was kind of putting out as much information as they could before the halving event. But here's what we have here. I'm tracking the short interest on the miners through a Webull app. Right, I'm pulling that data in, and I'm also going, if we go down here, I'm looking at the float from Yahoo Finance, FinViz, and Wall Street Journal. I'm getting the average float for that. Right, so I'm pulling in 3 sources for it, getting the average on it, and that's kind of what we're using that for. Okay, so current number of shares shorted. So this is just based on Webull information that I get, and this is based on the last, basically, 2 updates. So we had one here on 328 and 315. I don't have the latest one yet in there. It'll probably pop up here shortly. But we have currently Marathon has the most shares shorted, 42.9 million, followed by TeraWolf at 39.6 million. There might be a reason for this. Obviously, TeraWolf does have some debt left over, right? It's not as much as it was prior, but it's still like 70 some odd million. And I think maybe that's the only reason why it's being really shorted. Other than that, they have great cost of power and everything else, very efficient miner. So I think that's the only reason there, why they're being maybe shorted so much. Marathon is being shorted, I think, and it's actually coming down. If we look down below, you guys will see it. But the number of shares shorted has been coming down, which is good to see. But I think maybe Marathon, based on their operations, that's the only thing I can think here. Same thing for Riot, right? Riot, 31.2 million shares being shorted. Then you got Bitfarms, 27.196 million. Bitfarms, I think, is being shorted because of one, the CEO change in there. Then there's also the ATM, right? Then there's also some FUD in Argentina about Bitcoin mining ban, right? We covered all that stuff before. And then possibly the tariffs on the, not tariffs, might be tariffs or taxes that the Canadian government is looking to impose on some of these guys here as well. And then, so that might be the reason there. CleanSpark, 26.2 million there. I think CleanSpark is maybe shorted because their stock appreciation over the last 6 to 8 months or something like that, right? That has obviously grown, but we'll take a look at how that has changed over the time. And we'll see that BitDigital at 18.1 million shares, Cypher 14 million shares, Hut 9.1, Core 7.4, Hive 6 million, BitDeer 2.2, and Iris only 2 million, right? Iris is the lowest miner that's based on shares amount shorted, which is kind of nice to see. I'm surprised that the stock isn't doing much better than what we're seeing right now, but maybe that will change over time. And then if we look at percentage of average float shorted, you got TeraWolf being shorted the most here with 25.15% of the shares being shorted. BitDigital coming in second here at 19.69. Marathon number 3 spot with 18.45. And you got Riot at 15.52. Cypher at 14%. CleanSpark at 13. Hut 8 at 10. Bitfarms at 9.8. BitDeer at 9.4. Hive 6.5. Core at 4.1. And Iris, again, Iron, 3.54%. Being the least shorted here out of the bunch here. Okay, if you look at the share shorted value versus market cap, so market cap is on the right hand side here. Value of shares shorted is on the left hand side here. You can see that. You can obviously see the Marathon based on that is being shorted the most here, followed by CleanSpark. And you got Riot, Cypher as well. Based on all that information, you can see all the information going down further than that. And then here's the number of shares shorted change from since last time. So this is going back basically 4 weeks roughly, right? From when the data is available to us. And we can see here that TeraWolf has seen the highest increase here in number of shares being increased to them, with 5.9 million shares being shorted increase. Marathon with only 3.3, Bitfarms with 3.2, Core at 2.7, Riot 2.7 as well, BitDigital 2, CleanSpark only 1.5, Cypher 1, BitDeer 882,000, Hut 289,000, and then Iris actually had a decrease in the number of shares by 404,000, and Hive as well, 478,000 there. Okay. Now looking at the price changes percentage from 4 weeks ago on the miners here, you can see the Marathon's price is down the most, down 39% from 4 weeks ago. Riot down 37, Bitfarms down 34, Hive down 30, BitDigital down 27, Iris down 17 along with Core. You got BitDeer down 11%, Hut 8 down 5%, CleanSpark only down 4%, and you got TeraWolf up 12%, and Cypher is up 24%, right? So if you look at it here, TeraWolf has actually done the best, even though it's been one of the ones that's been shorted the most here recently here. So that's kind of interesting to take a look at that. And then here we have the information as far as on the individual miners over a pretty long span of time here, about 8 months or so. So going back to 6/14 of 2023, which was obviously summer of last year, we can see here BitDeer was not very much shorted shares, right? Based on this, it did peak a little bit here in the wintertime in December. Then it's been kind of falling back down here. We can see the same thing here for BitDigital, right? It's been kind of up and down and climbing into the winter months, into January, and then it's been falling down. It's been going up actually here recently, which is interesting to take a look at that. Same thing with Bitfarms, right? Pretty low shares shorted here, but then it's started to increase here through January, into January, and then falling back down here recently on that one. Then you got Cypher, and let me see here. Am I using the most recent data? I think I'm missing a couple months here. Let me see if I updated that. I did not. So we need to pop that in here. Okay, there we go. Now we're fully in. Okay, yeah, now we're at the latest numbers here. Okay, so let's go back here to BitDeer. BitDeer we can see barely. So that's actually been increasing in BitDeer here. And then let me change those numbers out here. Format. See? Too many data points here. Let me see your chart. We want to do values top outside. There we go. Okay. Change that out. Okay. So those have actually been increasing here in the last couple of months, couple of weeks. You can see that on BitDeer, BitDigital, same thing has been increasing here. We got Bitfarms coming down and then increasing as well a little bit. Cypher was up in, well, looks like, what was it? March was way up here. It's been coming down a little bit. CleanSpark has been increasing as well. So Core has been increasing as well towards the end here. And then we got Hive actually coming down here. We got Hut 8, right? This is Hut 8 before the merger. This is Hut 8 after the merger here. And that's been actually increasing here a little bit. Recently, it's still not as high as it was back in January. Yeah, January, and you could say really March here as well. Going down to Iris. Iris has been pretty steady here. It peaked in December with 3.78 million shares, and it's been coming down here. And it's up a little bit here, obviously, recently. And going over here to Marathon. Marathon has been coming down up a little bit, but it's coming back down a little bit more as well. And then Riot, same kind of situation here, up a little bit. I think before the halving event, they were being shorted more so than they are right now going into the halving event. Maybe we'll see a decrease on that. But Taro, as you can see here, has been increasing as well over the time span as well. Okay. So that is basically it on the shares being shorted right now. Still not too bad. I think, obviously, the biggest ones that are being shorted here are TerraWolf, Bit Digital, Marathon, Riot, and maybe those will change going forward, especially with the transaction fees being added to the block rewards. It's not as bad as everybody was thinking it's going to be. And depending where Bitcoin price goes going forward, it may not be that bad for the miners, actually. It might be actually pretty good here. It's definitely, like I keep saying, I feel like I'm a broken record on this, but I keep saying that the cycle is completely different on this. You guys can obviously see that here. On this, we see it on the data over here with the block rewards. We see it over here on this type of thing. And then if you look at actually at the whole picture of it all, we zoom out here a little bit. I mean, you can see here, there was our last halving event, right? Prior in 2020. You can see that the miners, we had the pandemic over here, which obviously had a big dip, and then everything kind of rebounded afterwards. But after that, things were kind of going sideways for a little bit through June. We had the halving event in May, middle of May, and then through June, and things started to pick kind of back up here. And then finally, it kind of took off after the summer, which you kind of, you know, with investing, you kind of see that where you have the motto, sell in May and go away, right, for the summertime. And then things started to pick up pretty much after, right around September. And we were going into the bull run here, where we had a double top on Bitcoin, getting to 69,000. We came back down, and now prior to this halving event, we reached a new all-time high, which has never happened before. If you look back far enough back here, right, this is the 2016 halving event here. You can see here that Bitcoin at that point was, let me see here, what was the price? 591, roughly 600, 700, something like that. It was going, I mean, it was going up to the upside a little bit here, about 50% in about a year or so. Not even that, about $1,000 there. And then really started to really pick up here in March of 2017. And in June, we were up $2,800. And then by the end of the year, we were at $1,900 or $19,000 at that point. So it is a different cycle if you look at it from the previous cycles that we've seen here before. And like I said, this was the first cycle that we've had an all-time high before the halving event. And miners have done a heck of a lot better here in the last 16 months, based like I had on what we've seen here, than they have in the previous cycles as well. So it is a different different beast as well this time around. And if anybody tries to tell you they know where Bitcoin's going, they don't know. I don't know where Bitcoin's going. We can only obviously go by previous halving cycles to see where it might go. We're still thinking it's going to go north of 100,000, could go north of 150,000. My original estimate was 180,000, but with everything that I'm seeing here, we could go possibly higher, but we also could go lower, right? We could be front run a little bit here. We could get to 125,000, you know, top out at that. And that's it. So we'll have to keep an eye on things, see where things go, and then make our decision based on that. But obviously, I think the best is yet to come for us. Okay, so that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. My little sales pitch here is Patrons get access to all my spreadsheets. The link is down in the description for that. $8 a month. And then you have a couple spots open at $3, $4, and $5 left. And you get access to the Discord server as well on that. So that's my sales pitch. That's it. You guys are my bosses. You guys help fund this through Patreon, through watching these videos, through YouTube members as well. Greatly appreciate you guys taking obviously the time to do that. You guys are spending your hard-earned money as well. You guys are getting obviously research from that as well, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to do a live stream and a Q&A again. We'll see what happens tomorrow. If there's any news, we may look at some other metrics as well on the miners, see how they're doing on things like that. Okay, but that's it. Thank you again. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, bye.